Hey everyone, welcome to the TheCTWineReview.com. I'm Matteo Fagan, and here at Southington Wine and Spirits with Brian Smith from Loca Linda Winery in Argentina. Brian, welcome to Southington here. And first off, we got to get into. You can see the packaging here is really fantastic. This is the Torrontes, and these are 1 liter, so a little larger than your 750s. And Brian, you can't quite probably see here the logo, but give us the rundown, Brian, about where these wines come from, your background, because you're
Sure.
a sommelier now, winemaker, and give everyone the quick history.
Sure. So yeah, my background is as a sommelier, a wine buyer, but a passionate pursuer of wines of all kind for my entire life. And I always wanted to make the jump to the other side, and Argentina had all the right pieces: old vines, an ability to source from some great vineyards, and a very rich history of grape growing. So I went down there and started with Loca Linda, which Loca is crazy and Linda is beautiful. It's someone who's sort of crazy in a good way. I went down there and started with just a couple hundred cases, and now we're in our 3rd vintage and kind of growing it from there.
Great, and so we got here the Torrontes, which is an emerging wine from Argentina. It's, what do you say, the most planted white grape of Argentina?
Yeah, you're exactly right. This is a grape that you really only find in Argentina, although they think it's originally from northwestern Spain, but no one's really done the ampelography quite yet to figure out exactly what it is. But it's been grown there for a really long time, and in fact this wine is from a 50-year-old vineyard that we found in an area called La Rioja, and more specifically Famatina Valley.
Okay. Yeah, and it's you can see you get a little bit of the sort of the classic Torrontes. I can't say that I've had 100 Torrontes, but certainly a dozen or so, and it has that nice little slight grapefruit bouquet. Nice. But tell us about the process while I taste this, because it's an interesting process that you do to keep it sort of keeping its acidity. You use a natural process.
Yeah, absolutely, and you're right. You haven't tasted a lot of 100 Torrontes because there aren't a huge amount out there yet. Although as a category, it's actually growing a little bit faster than Malbec, so it's becoming more and more popular, and people are really focusing on making great versions of this wine. What we do is we look for a natural balance in the wine. Everything that we do is hand-picked, and one way we get a natural balance is we actually do a pre-harvest. So we're hand-picking grapes early when they're underripe, so they're higher in acid and a little bit lower in sugar, so slightly underripe, slightly green. Then we keep those set aside, don't let it ferment, don't let it oxidize. We go back into the vineyard about 2 weeks later, and then we pull the rest of the fruit in. So we get another degree of ripeness in what's hanging on the vine, and when we pull that in 2 weeks later, we crush and we ferment the two together.
So you're using the natural acidity that's present in the underripe grapes to add the acidity that the Torrontes needs. And this takes the edge off of this Torrontes. It's not as big grapefruit style. It's got a little bit more of a finesse to it, a little silkier, a little smoother.
Thank you.
A little longer finish because of the acidity, and it's nice. It's nicely balanced.
Thanks.
I can, see this, of course, going with. I know they don't have a lot of seafood. So what do they have?
No, it's
this
pretty
with?
terrestrial. It's
Right.
Beef.
So would you have this with beef too? Because you don't have much choice.
Typically, this is consumed as an aperitif. It's a beautiful climate there in Argentina. Yeah. It's sunny, it's hot. So this is like a great way to get a meal started, or one of the classic dishes is provoleta, which is like a fried provolone cheese, which actually is kind of nice with this. In terms of pairing for people here in the States or with various foods, I think it's great with anything that's got that sweet and sour component. Southeast Asian flavors, Thai food,
right?
Brazilian moqueca, anything like that is really delicious. So it's a really versatile wine with food, and I think really pleasant and kind of pleasurable on its own.
Cool. All right. Let's jump to the Malbec. Now you can't see here. You can't see in the Malbec. You can't see the logo, but we're going to add a link to the logo so you can see. Tell us about this creative logo that you have on there, your own crest.
Sure, yeah. So as we said, my background is as a sommelier and as a sommelier in New York. So for me to start this on my own, which has always been a dream of mine, it was I sort of needed both components. I needed the beauty that I was originally drawn to and the great potential for high quality wine in Argentina, and also just my experiences on the ground in New York. And in fact, my first vintage we made and also imported and distributed myself. So without those two, it never would have happened. So the crest on our bottle is actually symbolizes that. We've got the Andes Mountains and then a symbol of the Brooklyn Bridge.
Yeah, it's very creative.
A new project. I wanted to create my own family crest.
Yeah. Okay, maybe you can see a little better shot of that on there. Anyway, we'll link still.
Great.
Now this is part of my Malbec review series where I'm trying to going at a lot of Malbecs right now. So we're moving up from, this is a little further north or south.
South. This is
South,
a little further south of Mendoza.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so at a higher altitude.
Exactly. So this wine is from Vista Flores, which is you kind of move from the smallest region out. This is Vista Flores within Tupungato.
Does flores mean flower?
Yes.
I mean, you can get it. Actually, you do get a little bit of a flores in the nose here because it does have a nice little, slight, little rose petal, little violet.
Yeah, that's a great call, and that's kind of a classic quality of this vineyard site or this area. A big story with Malbec in general is altitude. You've got a very warm climate with very little moisture, so ripeness is going to happen. The way you temper ripeness and create more complexity in different styles is through higher and lower altitude planting. So this is a higher altitude planting, over 1,000 meters, and what you get in a higher altitude is a longer growing season. And the way that happens is during the middle of the day when it's sunny out, it's hot out, the grapes, everything's happening in the grape, photosynthesis is happening, sugars are being produced, ripeness is happening. At night, it's almost like a desert if you've ever been in the desert, and it cools off. So at night, we lose about 10 degrees, the vine shuts down. So as that happens over an entire growing season, it actually stretches out the growing season, and you get a longer growing season yielding more complex fruit.
Yeah, and this is nice. This still has a touch of old world, I'd say, to it. Which is not one of these easy cookie cutter fruit bombs. It has some nice style to it, some finesse, and smooth. And really, it's a great value when you're looking at the large bottles here. So this on the shelf we're looking at for a 1 liter again is about $17.99, which is, if you do the math, it's a nice value. So great. Yeah,
the liter format is you're basically getting a third more wine, so you get almost two extra glasses out of it. The other thing is it's actually a lightweight bottle that I'm using, so it weighs 530 grams, which is less than the average 750. So I actually save a huge amount of green glass and emissions and effect on the environment through the whole supply chain. So it's kind of a fun format.
Nice. All right. Well, we're keeping it quick here today, as always. So Brian Smith, thank you for producing these wines.
Thank you. It's a real pleasure.
Thanks for visiting Connecticut, and maybe we'll go to New York and see you in action there
anytime.
At some point. So, what is it again in Argentina when you say salud? It's salud, right?
Yes.
Okay. Salud.
Salud.